Hello viewers of UNITEDFILMERS1. I would like to say all points expressed in this video are that of Stickmarschannel and not my own. I'm Rachel Sutherland. Welcome to the review of Metal People and Beardy Laughingstocks. Well, it's not my review, it's Stickmarschannel's, also known as David's. But his microphone is broken, so I'm reading it. Gonna be fun. None of these opinions are my own. First, I'm going to start off with rule number 1. The Moffat lies. Again. According to the man behind Doctor Who's current era, Capaldi was going to be a serious, darker Doctor. One of the darkest in a while. And then he's showing his comedic sarcasm, which I'm not saying is wrong, but it's not that dark, and sword fighting with spoons. This character is quite comedic this way, but I find he carries it out a lot better than Tennant and Smith, whom attempted to use over-exaggeration as comedy to the point where I find it got annoying. I'm not saying they were bad, but if you do want to have a rant about, oh, Tennant was the best Doctor, you can go and link onto one of my future videos why Tennant is extremely overrated and not actually the best Doctor. You can comment all your hate about me saying that then, on that video. But, while Capaldi did have the comedic aspects, it's good, but not really what was promised. Moffat promised dark. But I want to talk about a funny little teaser or Easter egg. Patrick Troughton was in this episode as Robin Hood. Not the Robin Hood we saw on screen played by Tom Riley, but the Robin Hood on one of the databanks. He was actually the first actor to ever bring Robin Hood onto a screen, specifically television. He played Robin Hood in a 6-part children's series for the BBC in 1950, and I found it pretty clever how the production team managed to sneak that in. Although I'm pretty sure he would be in the databanks as he was the first screen portrayal. Now moving on to something that we saw in the ship as well. The Promised Land. In this episode, we saw the Promised Land. Now, being on the internet so much that it's an addiction, and being in many Doctor Who fan groups, of course there's going to be rumours. There's only one rumour I can actually remember from the top of my head, which is the one that I've heard before this episode. And now people are so convinced they're sure it's a fact. Gallifrey. They think the Promised Land is Gallifrey. I'm also thinking it's Gallifrey, but I'm just thinking that's a bit too simple. However, Moffat has went down the simple route before, using River as Amy's daughter, if you will remember. If it is Gallifrey, the scripting for the final episode will have to be really good and not as obvious as Moffat made River for them to pull it off. I'm personally hoping Gallifrey will return, as it's essentially it's a large part of classic Doctor Who, where there was Gallifrey quite a lot from the 2nd Doctor through to the 7th, and none of that Last of the Time Lord stuff, which I'm not saying I didn't like, but let's make New Who a bit fresh. Let's bring Gallifrey back. They haven't had it in New Who that often. And finally, Robin Hood plus robots. Would it be a good episode? I personally thought it was, and how clever they did this episode as a whole. The plot was rather simple, but it was effective. It was one that the whole family could understand. And I loved the robots. I would like to see them again later on, as well as have the handbots return, just to learn a bit more about them. To end this review, I thought it was pretty good. My least favourite out of the 3 episodes so far, but there's only been 3 so far. You might end up with worse. I hope you enjoyed this review, and the next episode will be Listen! Remember, all points expressed in this review were that of Stickmarschannel and not of Rachel Sutherland. Next week, please look forward to the review of Listen by Spikespeed125.